Hey everybody, it's Rachel here, starting part 2 of The Grocery Boss, so welcome. We're about 5 minutes out from starting, so again, we'll just let the virtual room fill up. And if you're here, you can do the same intro as last time, just let us know where you're from. You can put that in the chat to the right of your screen. So as you join in, you can just let us know where you're from. Maybe also say if you participated in part 1 this past Tuesday, that would also be helpful. And again, we've got about 4 minutes until we officially start. So I have an obnoxiously large glass of water. You need to grab any snacks or water or have a little stretch break. Now is a good time. Hi, Foreign. You're back. Back for part 2. That's awesome. So yeah, if you're just joining the room now, hi, welcome. My name is Rachel. This is part 2 of The Grocery Boss. We have, let's see, about 3 minutes until we get going. Hi, Rhonda. So yeah, let us know in the chat, where are you from? It's always really cool to see in virtual courses where everyone's from across the country. Oh, Brandon, you got your problem fixed. Awesome. Glad you could join us today too. Rhonda's in Vancouver. That's awesome. Very cool. Does anyone know about the calf pat challenge happening right now? It's something that's organized through PSP, more the fitness side, but it's really cool because you do a whole tour virtually across Canada. So we started on the West Coast, Rhonda's area of the country, and we're moving to the east. So that's it's pretty fun. Sometimes I feel like I'm traveling across the country, which is not necessarily possible right now. So definitely check that out. I think it's on the CAF's main Facebook page, and you can get info on that if you'd like to. So the icebreaker challenge today, on Tuesday, we had the question, would you rather pizza for breakfast every morning or pancakes for dinner every evening? So today, our question is a little bit different, just putting it in the chat now. So would you rather have to eat mayo or ketchup at every meal? You have to eat it at every meal. Mayo. Oh, quick on that answer, Rhonda. You love mayo. I agree. I think it would go better with more things. Nothing's not good for health. No, definitely the situation would not be a healthy situation. But these would you rather questions are just for fun. Yeah. Mayo. Can I pick hot sauce? You know what? Sure. It's a virtual world we're in right now, Carl. Go for hot sauce. I think I do put hot sauce on every meal. So that is my reality. There we go. Okay, we can get everyone on board with hot sauce. That's awesome. Mario's got may. Oh, I thought Mario, you were saying mayo, but no. Hi, Mario. It's good to see you too. Glad you could join us. It's funny how those phrases like "good to see you" doesn't really make sense anymore, but I still say them. You know what I mean. Mario, where are you joining us from? Are you West Coast, East Coast, Central? Pembroke. Okay, you're near where I am, kind of. I'm in Kingston. Oh, from okay, awesome. So again, another Ontario from Nima. Garlic mayo. Now that's interesting. That would be pretty good too. I can imagine that going well, like as a base for garlic bread. That could be kind of good. I don't know, just talking out loud. Awesome. Well, we'll get started. Now we're all probably hungry because we're talking about food. But we're going to move into part 2 of being a grocery boss. So again, my name is Rachel Askett, and I am here at CFB Kingston, Health Promotion Specialist, for just over 2 years now. Before we get started, just so you know that the content here is a property of DND, Department of National Defense. Any reproduction on your part is prohibited, but in case you do want to view it later, it is being recorded. So it is all anonymous. People who see the recording can't see the chat, they can't see your names, and they also can't see, the polls are also anonymous. So just so you know, it is being recorded, but it's completely anonymous as far as participation. And so you can review these webinars on the national website. And I'll give you those websites at the end of the webinar. We do have this statement in here just asking for parental discretion. However, this is a nutritional wellness presentation, so there's not a lot of content here that would be inappropriate for children to hear, but just know that any information given as far as nutrition is based on adults, right? So this is for adult health, and these recommendations don't always prescribe to children as well. Also, please understand, as we're participating in the webinar today, participation is awesome. It really does add to the value of everyone's experience. But just know that it's up to you, your level of participation. Everything is anonymous, and please respect statements in the chat and people's privacy, and don't repeat any of the stories or, I saw so-and-so in whatever webinar. Just make sure we maintain that confidentiality, even though we're in a virtual room. Again, that last point just explains that the webinar is being recorded, like I mentioned, and you can find that on calfconnection.ca. If you'd like your video or your microphone made live at any point, just let me know in the comments and I can do so. If you're here for part 1, I did encourage you to maybe create a menu board or a pantry inventory list. So if you would like to share those, you're more than welcome to today. That would be really fun. Or we can just have, again, that discussion in the chat, which might be more comfortable for you. So to get things started, as usual, I'm going to share a poll just about how you're affiliated with the CAF so you can get an idea for demographics. Again, these are anonymous. And for anyone who is watching this recording later on, I will be reading out the results to the polls because I know you can't see the chat or the polls right now if you're watching the recording. So I'll just wait for everyone to answer. We've got about 10 people in the room today, 7 answers. So if you can't find the poll, it is on the right hand of your screen. There should be 3 tabs at the top, and then you can find the one that's called polls. Awesome. So we have 50% serving members, 10% veteran, 10% family member, 20% civilian staff, and 10% other. Awesome. Glad everyone could join us. We've got a great mix of the whole CAF community here today, so that's really good representation. My other question is, I'm just wondering if this is your first time in an HP course, or have you taken an HP in-class training before? So are these virtual webinars your first experience with health promotion or not? Just out of curiosity, because I think it's pretty cool how we can reach the entire national community like this. All right, so we have almost got a split here going. Not a first timer. Awesome. Glad you're back again, Rhonda. So we've got a complete split. That's awesome. So 50% yes, you've taken HP in-class training before, and 50% no, just the virtual training. So that's really cool, and I'd encourage you as things come back to normal, every base does have their own health promotion department, and you can begin to take these courses in a real-life classroom setting eventually. But for right now, we're really happy to have you in the virtual room. So our basis of becoming a grocery boss really centers around the Canadian Food Guide. And again, we did review this on Tuesday, so if you were here on Tuesday, you remember this. And if you weren't here on Tuesday, you've probably seen it in other places as well. But the key thing we were remembering here is that half the plate is vegetables and fruit. 1/4 is protein. So essentially meat and alternatives, as well as dairy and alternatives, have combined for that 1/4 of the plate. The other 1/4 of the plate includes whole grain foods, which are full of fiber and very satiating as well. You'll also notice that water is made the drink of choice. So this is a really easy visual to think about when we're menu planning and grocery shopping. So if you remember from Tuesday, the real benefit about menu planning is that you actually eat 2 times more vegetables if you make a plan for it. So that's why that was really the first step in becoming a grocery boss, is making sure you have that plan, because otherwise our vegetable intake really does start to suffer. In the CAF, it's really interesting because a study with the Health and Lifestyle Information Survey, 2013-2014, states that 80% of regular forces say, oh yeah, I eat a very healthy diet, it's good, from my standards, from what I know, this is a healthy diet. But then when we dig deeper a little bit, only about 20 to 23% of regular forces actually consume more than 6 vegetable servings per day, which is the proxy of having a really healthy diet. So there's a little imbalance about what we think we're eating and what we're actually consuming. So menu planning and making good grocery lists and being a good grocery shopper can really help, especially during this time when we're not eating at messes. We're likely all eating at home for the most part. So moving forward, did anyone try to make a menu board or inventory list over these past 2 days? You can either just say yes or no. You don't have to show us a picture or anything. I'm just curious if anyone gave it a go, or if you already have one in place. Not yet, but will be soon. And that's awesome, Rhonda, because today, I think you asked on Tuesday too, you'll be getting that handout that has a little bit of a template for you to get started. Awesome. So no one started one yet, but that's cool. The idea is planted. We all start somewhere, right? And as long as we have the Canadian Food Guide in our head while we're shopping, that definitely helps. Mima, you did a bit of planning for the next week. Awesome. And did any of the tips from Tuesday help, or were you thinking about anything while you were doing some of that planning? I'll let you type your answer there. Oh, more veggies in your wok dish. Oh, cool. I love a wok dish. That's awesome. Reviewing healthier recipes. Cool. See, and that's awesome, because then, if you have that menu plan, you know what you want to make for the week, you make sure that you have all the ingredients for those complete meals. That's great, Patricia. Oh, cool. Nice. Already started, kept it going. And that you'll see whenever you're starting a new habit, it'll definitely be a roller coaster of like, oh, I'm gung ho, I'm doing it full on. And then it gets exhausting, or it's not quite right for your lifestyle. And it will always take some tweaking to make it fit your life. And so that up and down of starting and restarting is great for learning what really works for you. So today, part 1 was a lot about what you can do before you go to the grocery store. Part 2, we're going to focus on the list. So how you can organize your list really well, make sure you don't forget anything, make sure you use it in the grocery store. So that's kind of before and during the grocery shop. And then finally, post grocery shop, how to store that food so it lasts really long, especially when we're trying to extend the time between our grocery shops right now. We want to make sure we do have some of that fresh veg around and that we're making it last as long as possible. Also to save us money and also to reduce that food waste. Awesome. Mima likes to have a selection of 7 meals and not tying them down to a day. Then we pick one that you want for the day. That's a really good idea too, because sometimes you'll look at your menu plan and say you have, you wanted to do a barbecue, right? You wanted to do some homemade burgers on the grill Wednesday night and it's thunderstorming, right? So you want to have a selection so that you can alternate what you actually are craving or what actually works for that day, depending on how things have changed. So I like that you don't make that plan super concrete. All right, so let's get started. I'm curious how people make their lists. So the next poll is in the poll section there. First option is, what list? I use my brain. There's some people out there who don't even use a list. Some people really love putting pen to paper, or we have our techies out there, and it's that cell phone, right? Being able to make that really convenient and have your list in your pocket. So which one do you go for? Awesome. It looks like we're pretty split right now. So what list? I use my brain is pulling ahead a little bit. That's funny because that is honestly how I defer most of the time. Usually not on purpose, usually because I've forgotten my list and I'm just trying to remember it in my brain. So I think last week someone had a great suggestion. Always making sure if you like to write things on paper, but you have a forgetful mind like me, that you take a picture of that on your cell phone so you have a backup plan just in case. Meme up paper, I forget at home half the time. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Mario, his wife shops and plans the daily meals. That's awesome. Usually, someone does kind of take that on in the household, but that's why making those menu plans visible is really cool too. So even if you're not, the lead on making meals in your household, you can still be aware and kind of participate in that because it's nice to share mealtime and plan those things out together a little bit. All right, so good to know. We have a lot of, I like to use my brainers, and we'll see if I can convince you by the end that making a list is really the way to go. So let's see if this guy wants to move forward for me. Okay, so back one, the list. So the first thing you want to do is brainstorm. Now remember, we're already at this stage from our menu board, right? So we looked at what's fresh in the fridge, what needs to be used. We've created our menu board around that. And we've checked our pantry inventory to see if we have what we need to make those meals or if we have to pick up some extra things. So the first thing with your list is you kind of want to do it as you write down a stream of consciousness style. So that's what that SOC stands for. So you're just writing down whatever comes to mind, and it's not really organized. You're just getting all the items down. Then what you want to do is visualize. So imagine the grocery store that you normally go to and recall how you typically walk around the store. Now, most of us go around the perimeter, go up and down the aisles at the end of our trip, but not everyone walks in the same pattern. And these days, there's often arrows directing us around the store now. So our routine might be a little bit different. So think about which department you normally go into first, and then organize all of your items on your list to be included in that department first. That way, when you have your list with you, you're going through one by one, right? So you're going through as if you're walking through the actual grocery store. And the reason why that's helpful is because it saves you time. It's really easy to check off department by department, and you're not walking back from dairy section to vegetable section to grains back to veggies. So you're saving a lot of time in the grocery store. It's also really helpful so that you don't miss anything. And you also want to be checking things off as you go. So some of the apps that you might have, or even your note maker on your phone, might allow you to check off or scratch things off on the list, or you can do it with your pen. So make sure you bring something with you that you can actually check your list off. Otherwise, it's really, really easy to forget the milk, right? When you went there for the milk. Another strategy is if you absolutely desperately need something, star it so that you make sure that's not the thing that you forget. And avoid starring everything because that kind of defeats the purpose. So another good idea before you go to the checkout area is to take a quick second to review your cart. Now, a lot of the time, the lines are quite long at grocery stores right now. So that makes a good opportunity to just check out what's in your cart, go through your list one more time, and oh good, I'm glad I reminded you to buy milk, Rhonda. And just make sure that you have everything in your cart. Nothing's worse than remembering as you're walking out to the parking lot, about to fill your car up with everything, and you realize that you forgot one of the most important ingredients for your upcoming meals. So take that pause time to review what's in your cart. Does anyone else have tips around how they make their list and how they make sure they get everything in the grocery store when they're shopping? Anything to add? Or take a drink of water. Checking everything off the list. Hunger. Yeah, that's a really good point. To be able to stay focused when you're going through your list, you want to have a really focused mind. So making sure you have a nice snack or something beforehand, ideally something with a bit of carbs and a bit of fiber, is good to keep you going and feeling satiated. So like banana and peanut butter, crackers and cheese, something to stem some of that hunger like Brandon mentioned. Yes, okay, good point, Rhonda. Getting things on sale. So checking for deals is definitely one of the next things that you want to consider when you're making your list. So one thing to think about, especially when you're looking for deals and things are on sale and they're cheap when it comes to like our money sense, is to consider cheap versus filling. So you can get a lot of cheap items, like a bag of chips, that you will eat very quickly and not feel full off of. So it's really not money that, or food that has a lot of value filling wise. So also consider that when you're looking for deals. And if something seems a little bit more expensive, but you remember, well, this is more dense, it's more satiating, and it will actually leave me feeling full, that might be more worth it. Then you can get to the deals. So like Rhonda said, a flyer app is really good to have on your phone. There's one called Flip, which is great, and it does scan most of the flyers in your area. You can also price check at the checkout. So if you have the phone on you, I'm not sure if some people's grocery stores are doing this differently right now. You might want to call and check, but you can present that price at the checkout, and then you can get the same price as if you were at Loblaws, but you're at Food Basics. So they'll do that price check. Actually, probably be the opposite, right? You'd be at Loblaws getting the Food Basics price. The other app that is quite convenient, yes, Price Match. That's it, Rhonda. So Flash Food is a really cool app that's come out from the Loblaws group. And what's really neat about this is it's preventing food from being wasted. So something that's almost expiring or almost at its best before date, you can actually purchase it on the app. So you know you have it, and it will be waiting for you in a specific fridge near the customer service area. So then you can pick that up and you know what you have because you paid for it on the app. And this is, again, really, really great at saving you money and also reducing food waste at grocery stores, which we've come to know as being a huge problem. Mario, when checking on sale items, check for expiry dates. Yes, definitely want them to still be fresh, and also have a plan to eat them if that expiry date is coming up soon. That's a really good plan. So if you're getting that, that yogurt that's on sale, but it expires in about 5 days, you really have to know how you're going to be using that yogurt to make it worthwhile. And fish, yes, great point, Florin. Mima also puts a piece of paper on the fridge, and when you run out of something, she writes it down on the list, go through sections, fruit, veggies, dairy, meat. Exactly. And again, if you're making any of those menu boards, definitely put a place for your grocery list so you can do that stream of consciousness writing throughout the week as you run out of things. So those are two really cool apps that you can note down and potentially use in the future. So there's Flip, which helps you to price match. And there's also Flash Food, and that one helps reduce food waste. Next thing is storage. So once we get home, how are we storing these foods, making them last longer, kind of like what Mario was mentioning, making sure they don't go bad in the fridge on us. The first category we talked about a bit last week, but a good refresher for anyone who wasn't there is dried goods. So again, make sure you seal the package, whether that is the bag that the food already came in, and you just use like a chip clip or something that pinches the top of the bag and seals it up nice and fresh. Or you can transfer some things like flour, things that could go rancid if moisture or air gets into it, with a sealed separate container. So something that the top will seal really well with. Also make sure it's out of sunlight in a cool area, and using that glass or clear material helps you to see if moisture is accumulating, and then you can clean it out before it goes bad. Yes, make sure product is not damaged, especially with tin cans. You don't want any of that to be getting into your food. It can cause disease that way, so be very careful with damaged products. Listen, so prepared meals. If you're cooking and storing your food in the fridge or the freezer for later on, there's a couple things that you want to make sure that you're doing to make sure that food is fresh for when you cook it the next time. So in general, you want to make sure your fridge is set to below around 4 degrees Celsius. You also want to make sure that as you're putting leftovers into the fridge, you're rotating the older food to the front and putting that new leftover container to the back of the fridge. That way nothing gets forgotten at the back of the fridge, and you find it a couple months later when it's no longer eatable and now you have to clean it up. For the freezer, that's usually set at below -18 degrees Celsius. And the handout that you'll be getting at the end of today's presentation will also include the link to Health Canada's more detailed explanation of these temperatures and times where you can save food in the fridge or the freezer. So that will be very helpful too. When it comes to the freezer, there's a couple of things that will help you recook that food later on. So make sure you label it, not only with the date, but what it is. You might forget a couple months down the road. And if you really want to help your future self out, you can also put some basic cooking instructions or rewarming instructions on it. Yes, thanks, Mario. Yeah, for sure. Rotating in the temperatures. So those are some good ways that you can store your prepared meals. And every food is really different, and it varies as to how long you can keep it in the fridge or the freezer. The range for fridge can be anywhere from 3 days to about 7 days. And the freezer can be about a month to 8 months. So again, make sure you check out on the handout that I'm going to give you at the end of today's presentation, Health Canada's detailed website, and you'll be able to find for each food type how long it can be stored in either the fridge or the freezer. Okay, so this one is always a hot topic. What do you do with the crisper in your fridge, right? What is it for? How does it help? How do we use it properly? So there's a really easy way to remember how to use the crisper in your fridge, specifically for fresh vegetables and fruit. I swear it does have a purpose. So you want to push that lever or the slider on your crisper to the high humidity side if you're storing anything that could wilt. So things that could wilt might be, like lettuce, right? It could be like celery, things that tend to get soft and wilted. Sorry if you can hear the traffic outside. Low humidity, you want that slider to be on the low humidity side if it's something that could rot. So if you have a tomato that's at its full ripest from the counter and you want to put it in the fridge, that would go in a low humidity box. You'd also want something like carrots can rot, right? Red peppers can rot. So anything that could spoil that way, you want in a low humidity section. So definitely write that down. Maybe have a little reminder on your crisper in the fridge, things that can wilt, high humidity, things that can rot, low humidity. A couple extra tips for storing fresh food. And if anyone else has other tips, you can share them in the chat. But specifically for bananas, so you can put saran wrap or plastic around the top of the bunch where all the bananas are connected, and that does help prevent them from browning really fast. Broccoli and celery, if you wrap them up really tight with aluminum foil and store them in the fridge, they're more likely to be crisp and to not kind of get soggy on you, so they'll stay a lot fresher longer. If maybe it's just you wanted some avocado toast for breakfast and you're only using half or a quarter of that avocado and you're storing it in the fridge, just brush the top or the open part of the avocado with a bit of lemon juice, and then you can put it in a sealed container or wrapped in some sort of food saver wrap, and that will prevent it from browning as well. It'll stay nice and green for a long time. You can also use lime juice, depends on what kind of flavors you like better. Herb storage can be really tricky as well. So if you're buying a nice bunch of cilantro or basil, you can store that in newspaper, which also helps it from getting wet and getting too cold. So that helps preserve your herbs. Or you can treat it like flowers. So you can put the herbs in a small glass of water, and then you can put a plastic bag over top of that cup so that the leaves are in the plastic bag, and seal it with a plastic band or a rubber band. That kind of creates a greenhouse effect, and it keeps the leaves nice and fresh for a long time. You just have to be really careful as you're reaching into the fridge and make sure you don't knock over the glass of water. Finally, mushrooms, you often see them at a grocery store, storing them, or you can buy them in paper bags, but you also want to store them in paper bags as well. That keeps the mushrooms being able to breathe and not being sealed up. So that way they don't build up moisture and end up rotting on you. So those are some quick tips that hopefully help you keep that food fresh in your fridge for a little bit longer. As far as herbs go, you can also just dry them out, right? You can have your own dried herbs and you can still consume them that way. So if you don't have a strategy for keeping them fresh, take them out of the fridge and allow them to dry. Any questions about food storage and fresh vegetables or fruit? None yet? Okay. Oh, yes. So that's what I was just about to share with you. I'm going to put the handout in the chat now that we're coming close to the end of the presentation. So it is again near that chat poll section. You can download the handout here. It has the overview from our first part, and it also has our pantry inventory template a menu board template, and the links as to how to store food, and that Health Canada website as far as timings in the fridge and the freezer. Maria asks, how to store lettuce. My mom puts the washed lettuce in a bucket in the fridge. Great question. So lettuce, you want to make sure that you completely wash when you get home. You can just use, a little bit of vegetable solution or a little bit of vinegar and water. Just wash it in the sink. You can then dry it off with a hand towel on the counter. And you want to make sure that the lettuce is completely dry before you put it in a bowl and put it in the fridge, because again, any moisture on lettuce will make it wilt. So if you want to keep it fresh for a long time, make sure it's really dry before you put it in the fridge. You can use a salad spinner for this to make sure you get all the leaves really dry, or you can just make sure you dry it off with that hand towel really well. Again, that's something that can wilt, so you would want that more high humidity crisper, which you can store it in there. You can also store it with that hand towel over top of it, or newspaper like the herbs. So it allows that moisture to move out of the container as opposed to being trapped inside. And that's really important to prevent that wilting as well. Do the new veggie buckets work? I'm not sure what you mean by veggie buckets. Has anyone else heard of these new things? This might be new to me too. Maria, was this like a salad spinner, or like a Tupperware container that you can store your food in? Okay, a bucket you wash them in, then store. Any container you store them in, just make sure it's completely dry. As long as the lettuce is dry and the container is dry, and then it has that vent, right? So it lets the moisture escape. If it's building up, then it's perfect, and that would work well. That works the same way your crisper drawer is working, right? So it's opening up that venting to allow the moisture to escape. So that's the key with anything that can wilt, is letting moisture leave wherever it's being stored. Nice, Brandon dries it too. Awesome. So that is the key when it comes to lettuce or any leafy greens. Awesome. And I don't know, is anyone making or growing a garden this year? Are they making their own lettuce this year? I'm very excited because it's my first year gardening and I'm getting a ton of lettuce. It tastes way better. Yeah, so lots of yeses. Awesome, Mario. You're going to have to get on the train here. I swear there's no turning back once you go making your own lettuce in the garden. It tastes way, way better. Awesome. Glad to see some fellow gardeners out there. So with that, you can continue asking questions in the chat and I'll continue to answer them for a bit, but I am going to send out those final 2 questions we always end with, just in case anyone's got to head out. We're coming up on our timing. So the first question is, I feel I can apply what I've learned today to my daily living, from strongly disagree all the way up to strongly agree. And then the second, or the last one, is, how satisfied are you using the Demio platform? So this platform that we're broadcasting on, sharing the content, the polls, the chat with, how satisfied are you with that? Awesome. Thanks so much for participating in those. And now I'll jump back to the chat if anyone has, the ground is terrible, so oh, on a fence. Very cool. Yeah, you can definitely get creative when you don't have an ideal space for a garden. So trying those vertical gardens. Try tomatoes, super easy, especially cherry tomatoes, right? You can just pop them off and have a snack whenever you're out there. So the reward is very high with cherry tomatoes. 60 plants in the garden. Awesome, Florin. I aspire to have that one day. Not yet, but one day. All right, thanks everybody. If you have more questions, you can stick around. If not, have a great day. And I hope to see you in another webinar. Now, I'll just share the link quick if you're looking to register for your next one. You can do that right here. So you can jump on that website right now and register for your next health promotion Demio course. Awesome. Enjoy the inventorying and shopping there, Rhonda. I hope it's easier now with all these tips. Have a good day, everybody. Bye, Florence. See you, Mario.